All right, welcome back to Planet Gen X, a podcast which explores the unique experiences of those born between the 60s and 80s. We'll explore a myriad of things like gaming, ADHD, movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, you name it, just nerd culture in general. We love it all. If it's nerdy, we love it. Yep. And let me introduce my co-host, B. How you doing today, man?
Hey, I can't complain. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Always happy to be here. This is a
cool
one thing I look forward to every week.
Pretty much. Well, it's my one time a week I get of social interaction with another human being. So.
There you go. Can't beat that. They tell you it's good for you. 15 minutes in the sun and talk to people. Something like that. Alrighty. Well. Anything
pretty light news, right?
Yeah, well, I was trying to keep it light in general, but I mean, I don't make the news. It's not like I'm out there like some people are.
Well, yeah, I will say I did notice something yesterday that we did not put in the notes, and that is, I'm sure you've seen it, Tom Sizemore.
Yeah, right, yes. Tom Sizemore died.
Sad to see him go, but, you know, he said it himself. He expected to die early because of all of the drug abuse in his life.
Yeah, I mean, he did. He's what, I think it was 61 or 62, right?
61, yeah.
61, yeah. So, and I think he'd been in a hospital for a hot minute. So it's kind of like they knew it was coming. So, yeah, it was unfortunate that he had passed away. But another one of those guys from our youth that's gone. But not forgotten because there's plenty of movies there.
Yeah, happens to all of us, though, man. Anyway. Just wanted to drop that in because it was new news.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. Well, moving right into news. First thing on the list is Dune Awakening. There's details that have come out about it. They talked to some of the devs, and they say they're taking a different approach than most MMO games.
Well, survival specifically.
Yes, survival, which is huge right now. It's a big sector of the market.
It's like it's either survival, horror survival, some other kind of survival.
Yeah, it's like the buzz. The hashtags are open world survival, horror survival, like you say. Yeah, a lot of it's going to have probably zombies in it, like Son of the Forest and stuff like that. But yeah, they say they just want to take a different approach.
I think it's a great franchise for it too, because I mean, if you're playing on Arrakis, which is pretty much alluded to, that's where you're going to be spending most of your time.
That's exactly right.
You know, open world and sandworms bring kind of a different relationship there compared to most survival games.
Oh yeah, I mean, did you see the trailer for it?
I have not. I've seen bits and pieces of media, but not an actual.
Well,
trailer.
I guess it's. I mean, probably it's just a media whatever. But oh man, like the just a little bit that I saw, the sandworm deal, and it looked, I mean, I don't know if it was in gameplay or just something they put together, but it looked really cool. And just the thought of actually, especially on the heels of the newest movie coming out, and we still have part 2, you know, to see. That to me really gives you, I don't know, to me in my mind, it's like, wow, I want to go game in that environment. When I see environments like that I'm thinking, man, whoever doesn't, it's just like the Hogwarts Legacy thing. Whoever doesn't take advantage of said environment is probably really missing out on you know, mucho dinero.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's you know, this is one of those franchises that I think I remember one strategy game that was kind of decent. Is that correct? They had like a decent strategy game once upon a time, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But it's past time. It's overdue.
Yeah. As far as the Dune family?
Yes.
Yeah. The only thing I remember playing, well, I mean, they have that stuff. There was a new game that came out not that long ago that I actually intended to check out. I think I actually have it somewhere. Looked at it. But the last one I played was, you know, of course, Dune was the original RTS game back in the day. Westwood Studios put it out. It was the original one. And of course, Command and Conquer gets thought of as that, but it came out before Command and Conquer. And then they redid it as June 2000. I had a lot of fun with those games, but I'm not real good at RTS. But,
right.
Yeah, unless this game that just came out within this last year is, I can't say, but maybe it was really good. But it's high time that something like this, it's just, again, I can bring up the Hogwarts Legacy again. This people have a certain love of a franchise, and June's one of those franchises, and so you have a longing for that perfect game, and maybe this is it. I think this genre does very well, especially right now. I love it. I'm absolutely all over the survival.
Well, it's one place that definitely makes sense in the Dune storytelling. There's a lot of it that took place elsewhere, but most of us remember the original movie, the GenXers, anyway.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Where most of it took place on Arrakis.
Yeah. Great.
So
great movie.
Place for a survival game.
We'll have to talk about that movie one day.
One day. Yeah, I'll have to watch it again.
Because that new one's so good. That's why I'm happy to see people taking advantage of movies, interest in something. It doesn't have to be tied in with a movie. I'm not saying that, but just being at a time when people are like, hell yeah, let's do some Dune stuff.
Yeah. I agree.
I thought I was going to bring something else up.
Well, there was one thing that I didn't like about it. I said I had something I liked and something I didn't. They made that, from what I read, it made it sound like the survival was going to be a little bit lighter, so far as like you don't instantly die from thirst or.
Well, that's exactly where I wanted to go. You're right. Thank you for saying that.
There you go.
They they brought up Valheim in a way, and now I had recently with my own wife with Skyrim. The same thing with that survival mode thing. She hated that shit. She absolutely hated it. Yeah. She's like, what the fuck? Every time I get a few little, I don't know how the money system is, but every time I get a little bit of something, I got to take care of myself and I can't do anything else, and I get it. She's probably not doing half of what she could, whatever. But yeah, I mean, people come to different games with different expectations. I knew she wouldn't like it, but I was trying to at least, if I could turn her on to something, because I don't like it. So why should I think she does? But yeah, they're saying that, okay, so they use spice as an example. They kind of want to incentivize players that do use spice, but don't want to tax players as hard that don't.
Right.
Whereas in the past, probably would tax somebody very hard or something, not doing it. Or let's say it's water, or like they'd be going a lot easier on somebody with water, not taking it than somebody that does. So we'll have to see how that plays out, because that you got to have balance.
That's what I was going to say, man. It's I've made my spill on edgelord mentality about it being too easy or whatever. As long as there is that option to where I can say, okay, that's too easy, let me play this way, it's fine.
And I also like when there's a difficulty slider that actually does things in the game that does make it very simple for the people that do want it simple. And I'm talking really dumbed down stuff. I can't remember what it was in. Oh, I think it might be in Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's got classic and easy, I think difficult. So classic, I guess, would obviously be like the old style or whatever. But having that easy really made it a lot easier for my wife to transition from the old way of playing to the new.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's something I see a lot in games these days is they have basically a story mode. It's like as easy as you can get. You're concentrated on experience the game. I think it's great for a lot of in-depth stuff you can immerse yourself in, such as The Evil Within.
Yeah.
But, for some others, it's kind of like, do you really need a story mode, say, for Jedi Fallen Order?
Right. Well, some of them really wimp out too, where the slider is how many enemies come flying at you.
Right. Or their relative hit point pool.
Yeah. When I say easy, buddy, you better walk through a tutorial on how the game is, how to play in the beginning, and not just amount of enemies flying at you. I mean, like just clues and stuff like that. It's more involved than just like I said, throwing a bunch of enemies at you, or going from 9 enemies down the slider to 1.
Right.
But yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Okay, well, I'll move on to the next subject.
Yeah, EA. Yeah, polling fans to see if they want a Dead Space 2 or Dead Space 3 remake.
What do you think?
I think they should just have made it already and just put it out. Why do you need to ask? I think the fans probably would say yeah.
I don't know. To me, it kind of feels like one of those, that look from across the room at the guy that knows. Yeah. It's like, why would you do 2? Because looking back, in my opinion, 2 is kind of just like a rehash of the same old crap, right?
Yeah. Well,
kind
maybe
of a different storyline because you couldn't do the same thing, but a lot of the similar traps and rooms and puzzles and stuff with the continuation of air and light and inventory slots, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe, when they say remake, and that this is something that has to be very clear, and this is just something I ran across yesterday, as a matter of fact, and that's whether it's a remake or a remaster, because you'll notice Final Fantasy VIII is available on the Xbox. It is a remaster, not a remake. Final Fantasy VII, did I say 8 or 7? Final Fantasy VIII is the remake. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Final Fantasy VII is the remake. 8 is the remaster, and there's a big difference in that.
Yeah, I agree.
Remakes is from the ground level up. I mean, if y'all remember the original 7, it was very, very shitty.
Yeah.
We all have fond memories of it, but it was very shitty graphics. And they basically laid like a Final Fantasy X graphics on top of the 7 storyline.
Yeah.
That's a remake. So what they could do, Dead Space 2, maybe they just combine 2 and 3.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They could take a note from Favreau and Filoni and just like take what they wanted from 2 and 3, mash it up into like a new thing that leads them to the final part of the trilogy, and just do a whole remake of 3 from the ground up.
That I can get behind.
Right?
I think it makes sense. Yeah. Well, then it just doesn't look like a complete cash grab, too.
Right, yeah, and it's some new material.
Yeah. And maybe that's why they're even doing the poll, because they know every time they put out something like that, they go, the guys are like, it's just a cash grab.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying. The knowing look from the guy across the room is like,
exactly.
He knows that he shouldn't be doing that, but
but it's still a good damn idea. Yep. All right. Yeah. Moving on. There we have. Wow.
We want to stick to games first.
Yeah, I was going to in Baldur's Gate 3 game.
Oh, I was actually going ahead. So Baldur's Gate 3, but we got one after that that's kind of out of order.
Yeah, so you know. Right. Yeah, okay. I'll keep it all gaming for sure. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, which is funny. We were just talking about this the other day. Finally got a release date.
How long?
And you would know better than I would. When did it actually come out?
I wanted to say it was sometime around March of 2021. I'm not 100%. Like, it's been so long, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, that's a long time to be financing somebody's beta program.
Yeah.
I mean, they were putting out, didn't you tell me they were putting out like DLC and shit? Or no?
I don't remember saying that, but yeah, they're always trying to update. They do have plans for DLC, as I understand, because you're not going to be able to get max level. They've always said you won't be able to get to level 20 in the base game.
Yeah.
So that's them purposefully leaving room for DLC.
But, excuse me. So, yeah, that's coming out August 31st, apparently, 2023, for PC, Mac, PS5, and GeForce Now. Now, you notice I left something out there. The Xbox.
Big old X.
Yeah. Xbox is not on that list because of technical delays, and that's the X and S. But the big question, the big elephant in the room is, because this is happening, we're starting to see a trend here. starting to see people not so happy with Xbox. I guess they're not happy with Microsoft and this Xbox S.
Yeah.
They got an issue. They made the thing. They made it kind of affordable, and people are buying the shit out of it. But it also is, it's like a third of the speed, or a fourth. I think it's a third.
I think you said a third, yeah.
Yeah, it's a third of the speed.
12 versus 4.
12 versus 4, right, exactly. And that's the problem, because developers have to make a game where they make a game for PlayStation. Doesn't matter if you have the PlayStation Pro, like, in the PS4 example, PlayStation Pro or regular. They originally had a PlayStation 4 regular, they had the Slim, and then they had the PlayStation Pro.
Right.
Doesn't matter which one you get, it'll still play the game, and they'll all play the game at the same speed. They just have better ways of outputting. Some of them have access to 5 gigahertz networks, where the first one didn't. So that, they have to write these games where it'll run decent on the S.
Mm-hmm.
And they're having huge problems with trying to get this to run at a decent level and still stay at the quality that they're putting out everything else at. This is next gen's console, Well,
that's what I was saying. It's a break from what technology is usually, right? And as opposed to next gen being the best thing that money can buy at the time. It's not the best.
No, it's not. But it sells really well. I mean, and when stuff does get put out, it's playing okay on it. It's not doing bad.
Yeah.
But then again, nobody, it's a developer issue. So,
we can go back to Hogwarts for this. I can say, if you're one of those people who watched streamers playing Hogwarts and you've got one of those old other Xboxes, the S, right?
Yeah, yep, the S.
Then you're probably going to be very disappointed with your picture quality, gameplay, all around.
Yeah. Well, and they have the fidelity mode and the performance mode that you can choose. Obviously, on the S, you want to choose performance. I've seen on YouTube a difference.
Right.
If you don't know, you don't know. Let me tell you that right now. So if you never watched anybody's stuff on YouTube and you took it home, you probably would still be pretty damn impressed. I'll tell you that much. It's not terrible, but
yeah, I'm just saying comparative.
Yeah. When you actually I deliberately got Xbox X because one, I knew it had the power it had compared to an S. I needed the disc slot more than anything. That really saved my ass from making a bad decision, was having the disc, because I already had Cyberpunk, and they were honoring the upgrade to the X series. So I was golden by having that disc, and it upgraded right up to the X version. But I don't guess I could have utilized that any other way. I got a disc I couldn't have done nothing with if I had the S version.
Yeah.
So, it was worth it to me. And you cannot buy a PC for $600 or $500, whatever it was. It was $599 or something like that. No, it was $500. You can't buy a gaming PC that will remotely play this game like it looks on my TV right now for $600.
That might cover the cost of a video card, right?
Jesus, yeah, not today for sure, right? If you go even with AMD. Their cheapest card, which is still a damn nice card, is $1,000.
Right.
$999. So there
crazy,
you go.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, really, to me, it's going to end up. Well, why do we even need a CPU? Eventually, it's just going to be going to have a video card with the NVMe, SSD NVMe. It's going to end up being. I think it's essential.
Why not?
Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, really, what am I getting out of any operating system these days other than, just a shell to launch programs from?
Right. Yeah. You're either gaming or you're just using a program that, I get it. GPUs don't run programs well. To me, they get so fast, does it even matter?
Right.
Because our CPUs seem, I don't know, they seem to be making them faster, but then I just wonder. I start to wonder because I've got this old AMD processor. Got it's got 4 cores, 8 threads.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it does great when it's not, when my system's not overheated and stuff, and it's
right.
brand new and still right now. If the only limitation is one, I've got like PCI 2.0, so I can't really, put anything faster. I've got a GeForce 750 Ti in there, and I think ultimately, if I could get a motherboard that just had PCI 3.0, which I could, I don't, and put this chip on it, and put a 1080 like you have still, I think this CPU would still rock the house as far as doing what it needed to do. I don't think it ultimately would make that much difference by getting a faster CPU. It's really just getting on the newer architecture, your new generation. When you hear PCI 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, PCI Express 3.0,
I know
what I meant, yeah. For the viewers out there that are going to start, God, because I know I'd be one of them. You didn't say it right.
Right. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, this guy's a fucking idiot. I ain't listening to him no more. But yeah, I mean, it's the same with the coming out with the. I mean, it's just all about PCI Express lanes, isn't it? Just how fast we can get it and how many we can have at one time going that fast, and
whether or not you can fit your video card inside your case.
God, man, dude, I've watched, especially this week, I've watched Linus try and squeeze a damn ATI card. He couldn't even use. I think one of them couldn't even use the reference card.
Wow.
Or he barely could. Then they had a third party card that they were going to use, and it was huge. But I don't even think it's even comes close to the 4090s, 4080s from NVIDIA, which was the point of their video. They were like, we're going to go to Team Red for a while because NVIDIA is just getting ridiculous with their pricing and the
consumption and
the power consumption, man. In a world where we need green, NVIDIA is turning red.
Right. But I mean, back to your point that you were making earlier, I do kind of see that there's, as far as what most of us are using a computer for, which is browsing, gaming, media consumption, a video card is really all you need, Yeah. You can have like some front end stuff to take care of your OS and whatnot, but there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to run your motherboard off of a small amount of your power supply, your video card off of a larger amount of it,
right?
And be fine, right?
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say now, but shit. Yeah, I don't remember what I was going to say. But yeah, we were talking about Hogwarts Legacy right there. This will wrap
Welcome
up.
to ADHD, everybody.
Yeah, I know. God almighty. That's the negative side of AD. Hogwarts Legacy. They're having some save games issue. I watched a guy yesterday. One of these YouTubers I've been watching a lot of. That out. Although I was a little bit like, he's like, stop playing now. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. That's a little bit over the top. Just tell people, tell people there's a save game issue. Let them decide what they want to do. I have a problem with that kind of shit getting on there. It's just, it goes back to the whole boycotting thing. Stop telling people what they need to do. Just give them the news. Tell them there's a save game issue. Let them make the choice. I'm not going to stop playing. I haven't had the issue. And the first thing he says was, Xbox is the worse than PS5, but they get it too. And I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm still going to go. If I lose my game, am I going to be pissed? Yeah, probably. But I'm going to go back and start over again. They know about it. They'll handle it. It is what it is. What do you do? The game's too damn good. I can't stop playing it.
I don't know. I can agree with what you're saying there, but there is another side of it. Like we were talking about with Baldur's Gate 3 and Cyberpunk and these other games, early access, pre-order.
Yeah, but how bad is it, I wonder? I mean, are we talking about 2 or 3 guys? Are we talking about thousands, hundreds of thousands? That's when, if it's hundreds of thousands, yeah, I don't want to finance your beta.
Right.
Right? Okay, if it's 10 people, you guys, sorry. It's probably your shitty computer. Well, I mean, it's an Xbox. I guess it doesn't really fall into that, but, I don't know. That's weird, though. I mean, why would it just... You think if it was a few people, then it would be everybody. So, are we talking about people that don't shut their Xbox down, right? Have they... has there been a power outage that went out and they didn't even think of that, when they came back up and all of a sudden their save games don't work or something, It could be something that we don't even know. I know it's a very closed system, but there's still things like that that you have to consider. Did they stick a USB key in there and then break it off and, make some kind of short or something? Who knows what it could be? It could be bad devs, too. Don't think I'm covering for them. It could definitely be that, too. But it seems like they got right on top of putting patches out. Of course, now I am waiting. I kind of feel like maybe we should hear something. Maybe I'm asking a little too much. I feel like in this day and age, devs should get stuff out pretty quick. But they got stuff out, 2 patches the first week.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We're still here in this first month of release. They're ready and... they want to be ready to, squash any problems here in this first, 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, well, we already know that there's been an upload to the repository. They're building something, so we know that there's activity there. So I figured we'd have heard an update by now, but apparently it hadn't come down yet. There was also some Steam update activity that's going to come down soon.
If I recall correctly, WB is pretty bad about, trying to keep a lid on everything until it's updated.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where these guys are looking at this repository at. I think, obviously, if you got a PC version of the game, you can get into a lot more stuff. So
right. Just data miners in general. I mean, you can do that on PC or console.
Right. Yeah. That just gets into stuff. I'm not that anal.
Man, data miners are the craziest people. They'll spend months just hashing over the same data just to find out, hey, here's a line referring to this.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That pretty much wraps up the gaming news I know of.
Yeah, did you want to drop in this one music related one before getting into our media portion?
Yes. Yeah. I guess you saw where Metallica released another single. This is like the third one, it's the third one this year, but it's like the third one in a month. I don't know. Maybe they've released. I guess they've released one every month. We're in the third month now, so one a month.
It sounds about right. I think the Lux Eternal was like at the beginning, and then we had like a beginning of the year, and then
Lux
we
Eternal.
had the other one, and then this one.
If Darkness Had a Sun.
Right.
Which I got to say, Lux Eterna, I loved. I thought, it had a good, it just moved good. It kept you rolling. Just had the drums were pounding away. I love the double bass, man. Anytime Lars is doing double bass, that's cool. It had a good hook. Everything was awesome with it. Then they come out with a second song. I don't know what the fuck's going on there, man. I don't know. It just sounds out of key. It just doesn't sound good. It just sounds like they picked a wrong kind of key. Just a wrong amount of notes. Just don't jive together.
To me, it kind of felt like, I don't know, like you said, like all of these songs are them trying to get back to their roots.
Yeah, seems that way.
But as far as something suicide, right? Was the second one?
Yeah, what the hell was the name of it? Yeah, that's how little I care.
I'm with agreement for the most part, but for me, Metallica, I've always been more of a fanboy of Kurt than the other guys.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just anything I see him doing. It's nice to know he can still get up on the guitar and
Lux Eterna, he does great, and a lot of guys give him flack because he goes a little overboard with the wah-wah pedal.
Right.
So it was nice not to hear that on Lux Eterna. He's just straight up soloing away. And I honestly, I've only heard that second song once, but I just didn't like it. And I have
the majority of
songs that I've heard more than once, but I don't think that.
Yeah, the majority of it is not that great, and like towards the second half of the song, you get a little bit more Kirk in it, and it seems to be more of his personal thing as opposed to intertwining with the other guys.
Yeah, it seemed kind of wedged in there a little bit.
Yeah,
even belong. And then so now you have the new one. If Darkness Had a Son, and right away I could tell that while I liked it less than Lux Eterna, I still liked it way better than the second one. It's definitely listenable, way better.
Well, I'm such a fanboy, man. I'm a purist. Give me Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, Justice for All.
Yeah.
Like everything after that, it's like, yeah, there was some cool stuff, but
yeah, Master was their masterpiece, definitely.
Yeah.
Can't get better than that. And Justice for All, just long. It's funny. We will tolerate tons of different riffs in 9-minute songs on Injustice for All, but you give us a 7-minute song today and try to do those same different riffs, and we just like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, it's like fast forward.
Yep. Attention span theater. Short attention span theater. But yeah, so at least I know they're 2 for 3 this year so far. Well, I don't know the album. I don't think the album's out yet. I'm not sure when it's coming out. Guess I could have looked that up. And
we could have
diligence, yeah. But I won't.
We have ADHD.
Yeah, that's right. And y'all have Google.
Right.
We all do. All right, so we're gonna have to scram. We're gonna have to cram. I had forgotten to give B the episode 2 of Picard last week, so we did not get to talk about it because it would be pointless for me to talk about it without him there knowing what's going on. My opinion.
Right.
So we're gonna try and squeeze both episode 2 and 3 together. We'll just kind of.
Did you get a chance to go back and rewatch 2?
Well, what I did, because I did want to watch them both again today, what I did instead was watch the Screen Rant review. Guy that does the Screen Rant stuff.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like a Blockbuster guy or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Like he's a video store. He's got this little white dog. The dog gets on my nerves, but whatever. He still has pretty good videos. I decided to watch that because I figured it pretty much is going to hit all the high points. Plus, he has all the Easter eggs and stuff like that, so it's pretty interesting. So far, so good. I think I'm pretty happy overall with where we're going. Maybe a little dragged out because what is it? 8? I don't know how many episodes we have. 8 or it's probably.
I couldn't tell you, but I seem to recall them having a really short season one year, but it may have been a pandemic year. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be 8 or 10. I don't think they're going to go to the full 12. Like that's a lot. I miss the days.
I will
of
say
24.
this. Yeah, same. Give me a weekly release.
Yeah, I mean,
and take the summer off.
Talk about a season, man. You get a full season of a show, literally. Full action of a year.
Yeah. I will say that it feels like a lot of telegraphed storytelling going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they'll say something and then it happens. Kind of like that,
Yeah. Too much foreshadowing or not really foreshadowing, just telegraphing.
Yeah, it's just like, if you do this, then this is going to happen, and then they do it, and then it happens. It's like, why are you even bothering telling a story?
Well, and then that, that would be getting us up into me talking about episode 3, too, between the whole thing between Picard and Riker.
Yeah.
So, starting with 2, so they find this dude listening to some 70s music. There's a Star Child by somebody. I can't remember who the name of the band is. And the song's called Star Child. And he is a Star Child.
It's a Brit band, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was somebody. It was like Baby or something like that.
Yeah, I can't recall.
But so, yeah, they find him, and he's got a few different names. One of those names that he goes under when they get him back on board, they do a whole background check on him, was John Cole. That's a 12 Monkeys reference.
Yeah.
That was one of the names. There's also another 12 Monkeys reference. Splinter. That was what they used to to go around in time on 12 Monkeys, the splinter mechanism or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's talked about. I forget. There's some mention in Star Trek or in this episode too about Splinter. So there's like 2 12 Monkeys references for you.
Totally glossed over that Splinter one, but I caught the other one.
They find him, and of course Riker's already wise. Don't you see it, John Luke?
Right.
No. And everybody thinks it's his son. It is his damn son. We already know that. I'm not giving it.
Right.
You don't know that. You're late to the party. But and then they find Beverly in this episode too, don't they? Or was that episode 3? See, this is gonna start running together for me now.
Yeah. So they actually find her in episode 1, right? When they board.
She gets a message back to him.
Yeah. So they board, and then they run into her son.
Oh yeah, and she's in the cryo.
She's
thing.
In stasis.
Yeah.
And she's basically in stasis until I think nearly the end of 3, right?
Yeah. That's okay. So it is 3 basically that she comes to.
Right. And I don't know. I think is this like a common obsession, like everybody in John Luke's son?
I don't know.
I remember stuff in the
original series. He had that dude. Vigo, Jason Vigo was the kid's name in the show, and if I remember right, and please, if you want to take my nerd card, I understand. I don't think he ended up being his son. And of course, we had Patrick Stewart's real son playing his son in that one with the flute, the Ruskin flute.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't take.
There was also the time where he was childish, made a child, whatever.
Yeah, he was made a kid, which is funny. I like the kid that played him. He had a nice accent.
Yeah, and there was also the clone, right?
Right. Yeah. So you had what was his? Well, he was the Praetor.
Yeah.
Nemesis.
Right.
I forget the guy's name. Well, it was Tom Hardy is who played him.
Yeah.
Very young Tom Hardy, who before he was anybody, at least to him.
Not the big beefy guy.
It's amazing.
Usually associate with, right?
He really buffed up for Bane, man. That's when he got the meat on. And then so now here we are yet again, another story about a son, and it's Beverly and him. I'm kind of glad they're going down this road though, because I always thought that the whole Beverly Picard thing just left alone. You never heard nothing about it in the movies, really.
Yeah. Well, I've always wondered about the what they're going to do with Deanna and Worf.
Yeah. See, I thought that years ago, and I'm well past that now. But back in the day, I thought that they're gonna keep Deanna and Worf together. But now that I was able to go back and I've watched it many times, hundreds of times, that didn't even last that long. That whole little relationship.
It didn't, but it was always kind of alluded to me that she was Alexander's not quite mother, but the closest thing, right? Yeah. Something.
Yeah, I guess they just
and it's kind of flossed over.
Yeah, it's the same thing. They just left alone. Yeah. It would have been neat to explore, but hey, and maybe they still could in some weird way.
Maybe.
Who knows? But so that pretty much covers episode 2 as far as they pick him up. They come across. We have the bad person come through, Vadic,
right?
Played by Christopher Plummer's daughter. What's her first name?
Couldn't tell you.
I can't think of it either. Sarah Plummer?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or am I thinking of... I think one of the producers was a Sarah something.
Yeah,
else.
I'm not sure, but it's definitely Plummer, and it is Christopher Plummer's daughter.
Yeah.
Who played the Klingon in Undiscovered Country. Got a little Star Trek connection through her dad.
Little cred, yeah.
First of all, this has a very Wrath of Khan. This whole thing has a very Wrath of Khan, because we're just getting into it with this story, but you can talk about it even more in the next episode. move into that. But yeah, she's very Khan-like. I mean, of course, the Reliant wasn't a badass ship, but here you have this seemingly cool, calm, collected villain, that knows they've got this badass ship and can do whatever they want to do, basically. 3 steps ahead of them in anything they try and do.
Right.
Definitely noticed that. There's been a notice of some Han Solo like copying from Riker there. Throw me that, kid. Talking about the kid throwing the detonator to him. Hey kid, throw it to me. And Han does that. And in the episode 3, he does the same thing with the punch it. So yeah, Riker's channeling Han Solo for some reason in this.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Riker always kind of existed in a weird space, right?
Yeah, well, it's like just like back in the day. I asked my buddy when they put the first Playmates toys out. They had the first set that came out, and Riker was the only one who, in his uniform, had a big slash across the chest, and you could see his skin had a little blood and a little uniform stripped away. I'm like, what the hell did they do that for? And my buddy said, he's the action guy. He's the guy that goes down to the planet and handles the shit. So yeah, he's got the torn uniform, and I was still very young, so I didn't quite pick up on things like that. But he was right.
Well, he was right, but I mean, when I went back to watch it after I had grown up, it was like he was a freaking space gigolo, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was. Yeah, he was kind of like the Kirk. They say like Kirk and Worf, because he can fight, but he's got he's always trying to bed women like Kirk. Kirk slept with anything. I swear he fucked a Tribble. He did.
Like
got
one
a
night.
hole in there. But yeah. So yeah. Okay. Now we got the villain in there. So that pretty much wraps up it. Comes in. We have a problem.
Right.
She forces them into this nebulae of some kind, or what they think's a nebulae. And now we're in episode 3, and well,
so she's chasing them in the nebula, basically, at that point.
Yeah, she's chased them in there, and they're trying to figure out what the hell they can do. And so Shaw is hurt, Captain Shaw, who actually has command.
We should back up.
Okay, back it up. Back that ass
Because
up.
at the end of episode 2 is when they scanned the ship, right?
Yes.
And they found out it's just overloaded with all these weapons. There's no chance of them getting away, which is why they went into the nebula, why they're trying to avoid it.
Yeah. It's got uber amounts of... Yeah, I kind of touched on it, but I didn't. I said she's got a badass ship. And she's got ridiculous weapons. We come to find out in this episode that she's got a subspace weapon that's highly illegal according to the Khitomer Accords. So... Yeah, she chases them in there, and because they know that, well, we need to get the fuck away from her. She's got a lot of stuff.
Right.
So they're in this nebula, and Picard. Okay, so I said Shaw is hurt. Riker has taken command, and Picard is.
Well, Shaw told him that Riker and Picard needed to take care of their mess, and then he hands over control to Riker.
Yeah, and then he gets hurt, so he's off to the medical bay, and Riker's doing his thing. Well, then I guess he and at first he and Picard are kind of doing. You think they're all right? They're doing their thing. Because Picard makes his little comment. I guess you could call me number one,
right?
Something like that. But then it starts to get kind of contentious because finally Jean-Luc does own up. Okay, see, we forgot that at the end of 2 too. Picard realizes, because Riker has been telling him in episode 2 that that's your son, don't you realize, blah, blah, blah. And Shaw is saying, we need to get the fuck out of here. And then the bad guy comes in and they're trapped, and he's like, so what are we going to do? He's like, well, that's my son, so he's finally going to, and then Shaw's like, well, fuck, we're going to have to do this now.
Right.
So that actually gets us in, they go into the nebula.
Well, that's when she launches an attack. Shaw gets injured.
Yeah. This is reviews ADHD style.
Right.
Yeah, because it all just comes back to me halfway through. I'm like, oh yeah, then this happened before that.
Did I tell you about the guy that did this?
So ultimately, it's a game of cat and mouse. That's what this episode is, just cat and mouse. So they're being chased. They've managed to evade Vatic for a little. Is it Vatic?
I think it's
Vatic, yeah. They managed to elude her for a little while. And so they're trying to figure out, should we try and make a run for it? Should we fight? And so they get in some discussion about kids, and there's this thing about Will and his kid that died, and because they have a flashback episode where Thaddeus is just born. They're at a bar talking. And so this whole thing's kind of about father and son, and Will, I guess Will being overly cautious, and Jean-Luc being overly, less cautious and just gung-ho, very aggressive, yeah. Trying to, he will fight to the death.
And I'm trying to think of a good example of this, but I kept thinking there was something in TNG at some point that this would coalesce with, to align that he's got some very warmongering aspects about his personality.
I think it would have been First Contact, maybe, but I'm not sure.
At some point where he was like, we have to put a decisive end to this, and this is how we do that.
Yeah. But I think the thing that they try and lay out is like Riker's, he's had kids, he's got Deanna back home, those days are kind of behind him. He wants to kind of go home. He wants to bring everybody home, instead of dying on trying to save this one dude. Essentially, because the Vanix, we didn't even say this, is after Jack. The dude's name is Jack for real, named after Beverly's first husband.
Mm-hmm.
So this Vanix trying to get Jack for whatever reason. They say he's a criminal.
And I mean, he is. He admits to all of his criminal activity. But the point is that, that's obviously not why Vanix after him. Yeah,
there's something going on. And we come to find out that there's a saboteur on the ship, because Vanix able to find them seemingly easily. Come to find out there's some, I think is Viridium? I can't remember.
Maybe I think
Viridium dust or something that they line to warp core.
Viridium vapor.
And so they end up, they find out that there's a saboteur, and Jack figures it out. Then he goes to get Seven, who's in her quarters because she helped get, Riker and Picard. She went behind Shaw's back to get them where they were, and he wasn't going to take them in the first episode.
Right, yeah.
So Jack goes and gets her, and they try and go find they go and try and figure out what's up. And they end up finding this dude whose face changes. Jack does.
Right.
And it's obviously a fucking changeling. The changelings are back. I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, and now they're talking all about the Dominion War.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got Dominion activity, but this is like it's a breakaway group that didn't want the war to end. So it's like a terrorist group. So they don't even necessarily want the war. They just want to cause some trouble, I guess.
Well, this was after Worf and what's her face ran in with the other one.
Yeah, there's that whole. We're skipping a whole other storyline going.
We are. There's a B story going along with all of this.
I didn't even mention that. So yeah, going back to episode 2. Yes. This is ADHD at its finest. Yeah, going back to ADHD. Going back to episode 2. There's Raffi doing her thing. She's undercover. You think she's on drugs and fucked up, but it turns out that she's actually just a Section 31 person. And she...
Well, I mean, she is the cop that, did drugs to maintain that they were cool with their informants, right?
Yeah.
So she did form a habit.
Right, yeah. She's had a habit anyway, too, yeah.
Right.
But she's got one contact that we don't see yet. She just talks through the computer. And she's trying to find out who stole... There's this weapon that they think that somebody's trying to get, and they end up killing a bunch of people at this. I think it's one of the academies or something, and it's like 117 people get killed, and it turns out that it's like a front for something else, really. But she starts following the breadcrumbs and gets herself in trouble, and this person all of a sudden comes to her rescue. Well, it's Worf. And of course, I said, well, that's got to be who her contact is. And of course, that was who her contact is. So Worf's apparently been doing some Section 31 work as a spy or whatever that is, whatever you call them. So that kind of, we see that's the end of episode 2. We see him grab her out of danger as he's finding out more about who she thinks might be involved. So you want to kind of pick up where they are at in episode 3? We glided over.
The end of episode 2, they were introduced and he picks her up and leaves, right? That's the last we see of them in 2. We pick back up with her in a chair, I think, and him maybe in a half light or shadow or something. And
she hears the operatic music.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is the same music that Picard was listening to in First Contact. Same opera, in case you want to look that up. She take it from there. She starts sneaking up, like trying to, what the hell's going on? Because she was knocked the fuck out.
Right. And then it's just this big reveal that it's Worf, and he says, Worf. "I am Worf." She says, "Who are you?" He says,
"I am Worf, son of Mogg, House of Martog, son of Rashenko, Bane of House Duras, and killer of Gowron.
Yeah.
I have made chamomile tea. Right. Do you take sugar?" That is not my best Worf, but that's a lot to say.
No, it was fine. That was good.
But yeah, it was a great line because he says all that only to go to the tea and ask if she takes sugar. It was fucking
right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the setup for their relationship throughout 3, I think, right? Where she's like, "Oh my God, this is Worf," and he's like, "Restraint. I'm older now. I've learned.
Yeah. Now
from my mistakes."
Worf is more zen, even more zen than he was back in the day. Yeah, he was in the middle of that whole opera thing was him doing his
forms.
Yeah, his little forms and shit. What do you call that? Tai Chi, yeah. It's Tai Chi in on Earth, but I don't know, Tai Klingon or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's certain movements were taken from Tai Chi back in the day.
Yeah, Dorn does, and that's where he he kind of pulled from a lot of those.
Right.
Essentially all of Tai Chi. So that good. We got that thread covered. So they're together.
So they together, and he starts talking about how it doesn't end here. There's a bigger picture. They agree on what's going on, and then he basically initiates her.
Yeah, because she doesn't even think she's going to.
We're going to figure this out.
Yeah, she's like, "You're taking me." He's like, "Yeah, I am. That's why. That's why I'm here."
Yes. And is that it? Are we caught up with them?
Yeah, I think pretty much that. They get together.
Well, they track down the informant, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They got that guy who actually played. Yeah, he played one of the. Speaking of Picard's sons in a dream world, he played Picard's little son. I think it was in. It was in First Contact, I think. Okay. When it's a Christmas dream. Yeah. And there's a little kid there. That's the little kid, all grown up, that dude in the chair. And we come to find out that this dude, well, she thinks he's withdrawing. He's not actually withdrawing. He's actually withdrawing from not being able to go into...
Change.
Go into liquid form.
What did I can't remember what they called it. When was the last time that you merged or something?
It was the last time you... Jesus. That's a good
return point. To the waters or something.
Well, he would say, "Well, when's the last time you went to your bucket?" But
right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that was the extent of it. He was like, "When's the last time you took a nap in a bucket?"
Yeah, that dude needed to basically goo out. So they finally realized that he's a shapeshifter, and of course, Worf's like, they kill him. he shapeshifts out and he tries to get away and they kill him. And Worf starts talking about this friend he has in the Great Link that had warned him about this group that had broken away, that still wanted to cause trouble, that wasn't happy that the war, that they surrendered, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't mention the friend Odo by name, but we know that's who he's talking about.
We know, yeah, right.
So that pretty much covers their story. You get it up to there, and then of course they're trying to find. They'll continue on trying to find out more about this, because they're finding that this thing that killed the there's obviously a weapon. I guess they're trying to find out who wants this weapon or something.
Well, here's what I saw in episode 2 and 3, and what I was talking about. Telegraph storytelling. We know Worf and She are chasing a changeling. We know there was a changeling on the Titan.
Right.
We know that there was a basically warp / transport weapon used on Starfleet Academy. Similar technology used by the Shrike. So it feels really telegraphed that, where this is going to start coming together, and they're going to like say something in order to be like the direction that the story is going to go.
Yeah.
And maybe they're trying to set up a fake out for later, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So back on the Titan, they decide they want to go out of the nebula, that they're going to make a run for it. Going with Riker's plan, play it safe, get the fuck out of there, run for it. They get to the edge of the nebula. He's like, punch it. And the old girl, Vanek, in the ship, fires this spatial device, and apparently it's faster and goes ahead of them, and opens this portal that they end up flying right into, that puts them right back in front of Vanek again.
Right.
And they're like, well, shit. And they go, well, let's try it again. And then it happens again. She ends up right in front of them. So then they start the whole cat and mouse game again. And finally, so it starts to get kind of contentious between Picard and Riker, because, Picard's like, we need to stay and fight. And Riker's like, no, we got to run. We got to save these people. And so, long story short, Vanek comes in. She attacks him. Or wait, no. So,
nope.
Yeah, you tell this part.
So, the big thing, they ran into the nebula to get away. They couldn't go too far in. I think it was a compression issue.
There's some kind of fucking thing at the center that's like a black hole, but not a black hole.
Right.
It could crush them. Like
an event horizon of some sort. Yeah. So they're stuck in this area, and then they change course and are able to, buy time as the warp engines are coming back on. Puts us back to where you were just talking about, where the weapon comes into play. And this whole time, Picard has been saying, we don't need to run. We need to stay and fight. When it brings up the idea of them doing this fake out as they're leaving, because they were tracking their chemtrail basically still at that point.
Yeah.
And Picard was like, that's a perfect chance for us to try. They'll have their back to us. We can hit them, be done with it.
Only their back wasn't to them.
Right. Well, I mean, then what happened is they tried to run. The weapon was used. They bought back. And then was it Picard or was it somebody else that said, now they're still exposed. We can still get this off.
Yeah, I think it's Picard.
Yeah, I think so.
He blamed it on.
Right. And so, yeah, Will agrees. They fire a full salvo. Guess what? Weapon again.
Yeah, well, again, she wasn't facing away from him. She was facing toward him. They expected that they would come up behind her, and she was facing them, and she was ready, fired the weapon.
Right. And so all their firepower goes from their ship into this portal, back to their ship. Yeah, right.
Like a mile away, I saw it coming. I'm like, oh, Jesus. All these
takes out their warp capability again, totally screws them up. So they limp back into the nebula, I think. And then Riker's like, you
get off the fucking bridge.
Right.
Yeah, you saw it. Because he's like, well. Yeah, he knew he did wrong, man. I mean, what can you say? You're either right or you're wrong. And a lot of times, that's the thing. Picard's usually right. But This ain't that Picard.
When he's wrong, he's really wrong.
And this is more of that Picard, the wrong Picard, man. That's what we're finding out. So I think it's what they got, how they got Stewart back. Just letting him be able to be this guy that's not that guy anymore. He's a little bit there, but he can still do things, but doesn't have all the answers. As old as he is.
And I will say that while it is nice to see some old actors work, I kind of feel like they shouldn't draw this out too long.
Yeah, no, he definitely needs to just finish it out. I mean, I'm
all for him showing up in other stuff, but so far as carrying a serialized story, I think he's done that enough.
Yeah. But I did hope that maybe they would have come a kind of a next generation deal after this. But again, that would have to have him involved. Maybe just every now and then. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that leaves them in pretty much a world of fuck, and that's the end of the story. This episode. Yep. I'm glad that at least gets us caught up. Hopefully, with us trying to squeeze 2 episodes in, that's just a lot for me to remember.
I agree. That's why we kept rubber banding.
Yeah, I'm glad we got this caught up. So hopefully we can, because we also, I didn't even think about the fact, because we also now have to talk about Mandalorian. Also started this week. Season 3 of The Mandalorian started this week. And wow, I tell you what, man. So let me just say that I looked at a couple of reviews just to see what other people thought about it. There's some angry people out there about Star Wars. I tell you what, there was this one guy named Reaper. I had never even remember the Scottish guy. This is one angry sumbitch, man. I don't even know why he's watching any Star Wars, because he clearly hates any Star Wars made now.
Right.
This dude, I mean, like, he was ripping on Rebels and talking about, this bastard of a TV. I mean, it was full on cursing, F this, F that. I don't know why I'm saying F this. Fuck this, fuck that. He hated it. And I will agree that this was a lot of filler, it seemed to me.
Well,
maybe trying to orientate itself a little bit. Because, for one, I think a lot of people didn't want... Well, I know a ton of people watched the Book of Boba Fett. So if anybody's confused on why the hell Grogu's there and all that good jazz... And why this is this, and why he's in this ship, and all that. Don't you remember? Don't you remember Book of Boba Fett?
They gave Jen 2 episodes of book, right?
Yeah.
They gave him one totally dedicated to him, and then followed it up with like a bunch of other catch up.
Yeah, and it was like the best part of Book of Boba Fett. It really was. It was like when it got the best is when they brought Jen in.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I do feel it was kind of weird how, like, if you just go from the end of season 2, which is like Luke shows up, rescues, takes Grogu with him, into episode 1 of chapter 3. It's like, what happened?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I get that, but these are all Star Wars fans that are making these videos and whatnot. So if you're playing the I don't know what happened game, come on. You know what happened.
Yeah, but again, like you were saying, it felt kind of like filler. There was nothing really going on. It was like, I guess they were showing him trying to catch up, laying out the road forward. Maybe?
It wouldn't have killed them to throw a 1 year later thing up there, because I've watched a few videos now and they've brought up Filoni mentioning it. This is like 1 or 2 years after Boba Fett,
right?
So yeah, you see Navarre is made up better, so. They just did a bad job, I think, of conveying that. It would have been as simple as throwing up a 1 year later from whatever. If they had a recap, which they did, kind of. Right. Recap from the Boba Fett story. That's what I think a lot of people are irritated with. They just recapped from the old stuff in the Mandalorian series.
Well, no, I think they did. I think the bombing of Mandalore was in the Book of Boba Fett, wasn't it? That
It
one
may
shot
have
that they
been,
did.
but if they did, then they left the important stuff out.
Right.
If people needed that connection, it was sorely missed, obviously. Because some people must have, I guess. Bitching about it anyway.
I think also the last we saw of the armorer in actual Mandalorian was when they left her at her forge, right?
Yeah,
in the original Coven.
Yeah, because
and we see her again in book.
Yep, yeah, you see that too, because she tells them to go to the waters of Mandalore, bathing them for redemption.
Right.
And so that's how you know. So you come back into this, and you see that they're doing their. I think that might be why they're not putting numbers up, because when you come into that Mandalorian ritual, the first thing that runs through your mind is this now, or is this Jin back in the day? Are we seeing his initiate?
Right.
People just said it just had a whole lot of nothing, and then of course you had the Gator fight that was kind of intense. But then they said, well, the Mandalorians kind of looked like they were getting their ass kicked by a giant gator, and I don't know if I looked at it that way. I mean, they were like, "Oh, you didn't see it coming?" Well, you're paying attention to a ceremony going on. Are you really expecting a giant gator turtle to come out of the,
right.
the water? I don't know. You're being a little nitpicky at that point. I thought did anybody, maybe one, I think I saw one get swallowed. So you lost one person?
I think a couple.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
But yeah, their numbers are too small for them to be losing anybody, right? Because they are in the process of building a coven.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
And I think that's one of those allusions to it being later, is the fact that, there are actually colors associated now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well that's all the clans.
Which denotes that they are they're members of a clan, so it's not all foundlings.
Yeah, like the was it Vaslik? Vass something or other.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the guy, that whole clan is the one that had the dark saber originally. So that guy that Favreau voices there, the big minigun, he's of that clan.
Right.
It's like Vaslik. Don't take my Star Wars card. It's Vaslik, Vaslik, something. I don't know what it is. Can't expect me to remember all this shit. Jesus.
Which is another thing that was in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
That wasn't in Mando.
Yeah.
When they met up and had the sword fight.
Yeah, because, they fought each other. Mando could barely wield the darksaber. It's like real heavy to, like, not the right person or whatever. Thoughts aren't pure or something. I don't know. Some stupid thing.
Mjolnir.
Like this is so ultimately, I guess, without going into more of the story yet, it just feels like I said about Obi-Wan, man. This is one of those things where maybe they should have put the first 2 episodes out if they don't want to put the whole thing out. Because it just felt like you just got half an episode. Like, we're just getting into the things, and now we're going to get the payoff, and the payoff never came. Maybe the payoff is in episode 2, and it'll flow better that way.
Here's the other thing I saw is, like, we mentioned beforehand, before the release of episode 1, they did a light syndication with ABC, Freeform, and something else.
One episode.
Right, yeah. Just to basically get the word out. And then right on the heels of that, we have Favreau, or maybe this was on the heels of that, basically saying there is no exit strategy currently for these IPs.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels, I guess, a little low effort, because it is 40 minutes of whatever.
Yeah, he's just going about his day, man.
Just
like
hanging out.
It's like that day you jump in your game, man, and you're not really wanting to do the main quest. You just want to do a couple side quests and pick up some gold here and there, just to trying to get.
I unlocked a new ship, or whatever.
Trying to get some inventory items and whatever. But you're preparing for that main quest. That's what we saw in this episode. The preparation. He goes and gets IG-88 for whatever fucking reason. I guess he wants a babysitter again.
No, it's to help him survey Mandalore.
Oh yeah, that's
because he needs a droid he can trust, and that is the only droid he can trust. Of course, he does some operation on him, wakes up, goes back to his directive of terminating the asset, which is Grogu.
Yep.
Has to get his head smashed in by a protocol droid of some sort.
Yeah, it's like it looks like C-3PO, but it's got this weird goofy face thing on it. But it throws this giant bust of Grieved Karga.
Yeah.
On top
of the IG's head.
But yeah, he still wants him.
Yeah, Azilians? Is that what they were called?
What's that? Yeah, I don't know what those little guys are called. Yeah, they're the Rogue One guys. No, not Rogue One. Is it Rogue One?
I don't remember. I don't remember them, and I don't remember them from anything, to be honest. But I've probably seen whatever they're from.
It's either from Solo or Rogue One. No, it's probably from. Okay, so it's either from the last 3 Star Wars movies or Rogue One or Solo. He's in one of those. It's this little tiny guy. It's voiced by the girl that played Moaning Myrtle, Harry Potter. And it's those tiny little guys that fix things. Okay, no, it was in C-3PO with the red arm, and he was working on him in the back of his head. That Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
That 7? I think it's 7.
I think so.
Yes, I think it's Force Awakens. So he's that little dude in Force Awakens, and he, everybody thinks he's so cute, but then Grogu took the cute thing, made it cuter. So. He's still cute, but anyway, so there's like 3 of them. They have this tiny little shed he can barely get into.
Yeah, you see Din Djarin sitting in there, and he's like all hunched over and taking up like this full ceiling part.
Yeah, and then Grief keeps poking his head in the doorway and trying to translate.
Because they obviously are speaking common, whatever the equivalent is.
Which is, and it's just more filler because they're just telling him, we can't do shit with this. We can't do nothing with him. You need this piece. We need to send you on this side quest.
Well, I mean, there was also the setup for the joke with Grogu, right? Where he would be facing away, he turned back, and then Grogu had one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of feel like it was just a replacement for Ugnaughts, right?
It is. It's a replacement for Ugnaughts, and his buddy died that fixed IG in the first place, so they couldn't go that route. I was thinking about you mentioned Grogu having his little fun. They did a lot. I love the comedy with Grogu because when they're in Grieved Karga's office, Grogu's in the big chair, and you hear woof. Woof. And my wife didn't even notice at first. I was like, you see Grogu over there? Because you can hear him doing. I said, you see he's just spinning himself around in the chair, just woof, woof. Yep. He's such a little awesome dude, man. He's fun.
He is.
If it wasn't for him, I'd probably take a complete shit on the episode, but I don't get as angry about it as these guys that I watched. It was very negative. There's a lot of negativity towards it from guys who would praised it last 2 seasons. They would have, because it's the greatest thing. But God, give it. If it doesn't just live up to a little bit of what they're used to, man, they just start hacking away at it with a knife or a scalpel.
Well, it's also the anatomy of a serialized thing too, right? You're going to have episodes like this. It's really hard to chop it up into segments where you get a little bit of everything in every episode, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have some episodes that are a little slow. You're going to have some, what's it called? Explainers. What is it called? Exposition. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I thought that's where
you're going to have some shows with that. So it depends on how it ends up in the whole.
Yeah. And again, that's just like I said, though, if you give us the whole thing at once, then we'll see it and see the vision. If you can't do that, then give us the first 2. Either that or just edit your shit better. Maybe you should have done it in the second episode instead of the first. Something like that. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm still a big fan of just like release the season all at once. Give us the option to binge it. I don't know. It's such a God. We talked about this before. We did. And it's like, it's when nice you gotta have time to cogitate. Yeah.
Yeah. There's times when you really need it, and Obi-Wan definitely needed it. It seems like this needs it. If it just depends, like you got to be mindful of how you want it to be delivered, I guess, when you make it. Be mindful. Right. Do you want it to be shown all at once? You need to talk with the men upstairs, whoever makes that decision, and get that set in stone ahead of time, so you can lay it out the appropriate way. Because if you intended it as a director to be shot as one thing, and then the studio says, "Well, yeah, we thought we were going to do that, but we decided, fuck you, we're going to do it this way instead," then you can understand how it's going to lose out, and it's not even the director's fault. So,
well, I also think even if it's serialized, it's a mistake to issue one episode at a time, right? Yeah. You could do 2 at a time, and you could mess with your pacing, get it to where it's worth it to watch. Both of those, you get a sense of fulfillment from watching them, and you can have all the exposition, all of the lull, counterpoints and tonics and whatever. And still, fill out 2 episodes easy. Yeah.
And it used to be a thing when premieres would come out to put out 2 episodes. So it wouldn't have killed them to do something like that. But when you're only doing like 6 or 8, I guess you don't want to blow your load.
I kind of remembered in the 90s and the aughts, your either your finale or your intro to the
finale.
Season.
Yeah, 2-part season intro, season premiere.
Would be 2 parts, or a lot of times they do like just 1 episode, but like a long episode.
Yep. Yeah, 1-hour season premiere of Cheers. Yeah, so what do you say? He goes to Navarre. He tells him he can't be his magistrate. The IG unit tries it. They can't fix it. They tell him to go get this piece. He goes to see what's her name? Bo-Katan. She's down in the dumps. She's decided she doesn't give a shit about nothing anymore, that nobody's going to do anything.
Well, she's laid up on her throne like the classic deposed king or queen in this instance. Yeah. And she's just kind of blasé about everything he has to say, kind of has a big FU energy about her.
Yeah, and he's like, well, what about this? You were talking about doing this? And he's kind of like thinking maybe... Obviously, he's thinking he might kind of join up with them since he can't be a Mandalorian with the other group, that he'll get accepted by them, and fuck trying to go to the waters of Mandalore. Well, they cock-blocked him that way by making Bo just completely indifferent. And so she sends him packing, and he says, well, I'm going to Mandalore, blah, blah.
Well, of course, she is... There is stuff that wasn't put into the Mandalorian that we know about concerning her.
Right. Yeah, you got to know about Rebel stuff.
Yeah, like her whole thing, like forever, she's been after this sword.
Yep. And she's
going to... Yeah.
She said
she's going to reunite him. Yeah.
He said, yeah, I do.
And that's why she's pissed off. Her whole reason for being
Frankie
was taken away.
Yeah. She's pouting big time, man. She's tripping over. That's why her feet were up on the throne, so she didn't trip over her lip. He was pouting big time, buddy. But yeah, so she sends him packing, and then let's see, where's he go from there?
So, well, there is a big byline throughout this of him and the kid in the ship, right? The Naboo fighter.
Yeah, he's training. Yeah, so you get the impression, and again, we're a couple of years after the year at least after the fact, and so he's been kind of training Grogu in the ways of being a bounty hunter or a Mandalorian, I guess.
A Mandalorian,
yeah,
mainly, yeah.
Yeah.
So says it's not enough to hunt; you have to know where you are, your tools. Yeah. And so he teaches them a lot of that. So the space pirates were a thing.
That's right. Yeah, the guys that just were too dumb to realize the school ain't a bar no more. That was weak too, man. It's like, so we got into an argument because these guys wanted to go drink in this school and were held up by a protocol droid. What sense did that make? Like, do you think these guys, if they were badass pirates, they would have been held up by this protocol droid? I don't know.
I think that was another misdirect, though. I think that was one thing to where he wanted a confrontation.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I get that. But I don't know. It just... So, yeah, they end up, when he leaves, they end up trying to fight with him, and he kills a bunch of them, and then we get to see this giant space or a swamp thing looking reject.
Right.
That guy was a little weird looking.
I'd agree. I was like, what were you guys thinking?
Yeah, it was pretty rough. But what I forget. He was the Pirate King guy for those guys anyway, and he ends up. What did he do? Disable his ship, I guess, didn't he? Is that where we let? That was the cliffhanger.
No, they. Well, I want to say this was even before where we were talking about, but they. The one guy leads Mando back to their big mothership.
Yeah.
And then he stops, and they have this discussion about. Do you remember the discussion?
Jesus, no. I have no idea.
Basically, just a dick measuring contest, right?
Yeah.
Something like that in space. And then he gives them terms, and he says to the kid, never trust a space pirate. And he hits the the nitrous equivalent and flies past.
That's right. He just shoots right past him. Yeah, because he says, surrender your ship and I'll let you live. That's right.
Right.
And he's a kid, never trust a pirate. Hyperspace out there. I think that's when he went to Bo-Katan, because that's when he left Navarre.
I think so.
Navarre.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so again, ADHD review. That's maybe a good title for this episode. The ADHD review of Picard.
That should be the name of the show.
Yeah. Planet
Today on ADHD review.
Today on Planet ADHD. Yeah.
I don't think we ended there, though. No, we did. I think you're right. I think that was where it ended. He talked to her. She basically told him to F off, and then he left.
Yeah, and he said, well, I'm going to the planet, damn it.
Right.
I got to get this chip or whatever it needs for IG's shit, too, is what he's going to find. Well, yeah. I think that it would make sense, since we didn't see him do this task, that he's going to go see the curly-headed chick, right? I mean, she's a parts lady. Maybe he goes see her.
Maybe. I mean, she did tell him in book that, she once dated a Jawa. She's in tight with them. Gives them a list, and then, if they...
there you go. See?
If she allows them to go through her junk, they will pick up stuff and just give it to her.
Sounds like a euphemism. Yeah. But there you go. There. If that that's the case, then she could be the person that talks to her Jawa buddies that are all up in her junk, and they can find this piece.
I remember us talking about the IG units once upon a time. Which was this one's designation? IG 11.
I don't remember. Yeah, IG 11. I think so.
And I seem to recall Legends comic having an IG-88 unit, right?
Yeah, something like that. Well, the I-88 was the one that was in Empire.
From Empire, yeah. That's what I was going to say.
He was in many games. They just gave him that designation back in like the Super Nintendo games and stuff like that. Yeah. They would just give.
It's a big part of canon to me, because I've seen it throughout stuff.
Well, yeah, they're assassin droids, and there were a ton of them, so I would think he would be able to find the part he needs.
Well, I was going to say, if I recall correctly, chronologically, the last time we remember IG-88 was on Tatooine, right?
Yeah. Wait, Tatooine?
Wasn't it?
He was on.
Or was it Coruscant?
He was a bounty hunter on the in Empire.
Right. And then I want to say that there was a story somewhere of him having a fight with a Jedi as he was tracking.
There's been a lot of games, so it may have been one of the games. Could
have been.
Not sure.
But I want to say he wound up either on Tatooine or close. So
what was that?
Maybe it'll be 88s that we see.
Yeah. The Jedi game. Shoot, I have it over there. It was one of the first good Star Wars Jedi games to come out in around 2008, 2009. I would funny tell you ran around with two.
It's right after Sith Lords, right? Or was that before?
Maybe. It was the first one that had physics. You could throw these boxes around and everything. He had 2 lightsabers. Right. What the hell was the name of that? It might have been.
Or was it Coder 2?
It had 2, and it had a sequel as well. It might have been in KOTOR. Yeah, it could have been in fact, I think it might have been. But I think he's been in, I know he's been in other games, but as far as a story like that, what you talk about, I want to say it might have been that game. I can't remember.
Maybe. Well, that's another thing. Like, we also know Cad Bane from other media as well.
Yeah. What I love that Favreau and Filoni are doing is taking all that stuff that got relegated to Legends, that got taken out of canon, and they're putting it good stuff back in.
Yeah.
Because the good stuff is the stuff we kind of held on to is, well, this is what we know. You know, and then it got taken away from us, and now they're slipping it back in. So I like that because, you know, I guess in a way you could say it's lazy. They didn't come up with their own stuff, but I like it better because I think it's stuff that it was intended. It was delivered to us with Lucas's blessing as stories we could enjoy outside of movies, in books, in comics.
Here's what I say. If you satisfy fans, if you focus on doing that with the story, it gives you so much more free time to set up your cinematography, your sound palette, everything else you want to get right. You can focus on that if you just give the fans what they want as far as the story is concerned.
Yeah, the eye candy will come anyway, right? Especially in Star Wars, man. Write a good story, the eye candy's there already. We get blown away by these beautiful ships. That's why we were so attracted to it back in the day, in the 70s, man. What the hell, these ships, man, they're fighting each other. Wow, how cool, these laser beams and shit like that. Now the way they do it is just, it's still cool. It's even more cool. Because
I really enjoyed my time on a B-Wing in Fallen Order.
And yeah, I love stuff like that. Getting to, like, back in the day, I loved when X-Wing came out. I didn't even have a computer that could play it. When you first met me, I would go to that like Babbage's or whatever, and I would stare at that box, just longing to play that game. You know, finally get a girlfriend who has a badass computer and go over and play her game. That was the first time I realized you can't ignore girls for very long.
Right.
They
Still
don't
young
like
at
that
point.
shit. Yeah, even back then.
I just always remember, it was before Squadrons, but the one game that I played that was like that, the TIE fighters were just unwieldy as hell.
Yeah.
And I've always loved TIE fighters.
Yeah, that's what really got me, because X-Wing was the first one. Then they came out with just TIE Fighter, and I was like, oh, yeah, TIE Fighter. And it's cool because if you started with the game like I did, like I owned X-Wing on diskette. I owned a TIE Fighter on diskette. Then they came out with X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter, which essentially just took X-Wing and TIE Fighter, put them in the same package, gave you a multiplayer option, and updated the graphics. Put it on CD-ROM for the first time. Then you got the Piece de Resistance, my favorite out of all because it had the best graphics. That was X-Wing Alliance.
Yes.
Had a good story, had the best graphics out of all of them, and basically allowed you to do everything you could do in all the ones that came before it. But you had the best graphics. And people have even put out updates for X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter and X-Wing Alliance to even bring the graphics up to modern standards. And
we'll probably continue to, because there's always a solid fan base that are geeks that will do that.
Oh man, yeah, it's so cool too. I wish I could have got it running right. I tried to do the X-Wing Alliance and the updates for it a couple of years ago, because I was getting real nostalgic for that game. But I couldn't get it working quite right. I missed out. Hopefully I'll get to look.
Happens to me all the time, man. I'm always like, yeah, I'd love to go back and play this one game, and it's like, you need an emulator to do that now.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that with the Simpsons Hit and Run PlayStation 2 emulator not too long ago. It ran well, about a half a year ago. Ran really well. I was quite pleased with it. And now people are talking about it again. That was in the news. I didn't put it on our news thing, but the developer, somebody said they would love to see a remake of Simpsons Hit and Run. And the developer said, yeah, that would be awesome. And even the game company Vivendi and Universal, they all defunct. They don't even know who has the rights to the Simpsons game stuff anymore. So I think
probably
there's
Activision.
Yeah, just like you were talking about home modders, man, there is this guy working on a Simpsons Hit and Run remake, whether we see it or not.
Well, I mean, we talked about the Zelda games previously. I only played my favorites, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, on N64 once, but I've played that game numerous times since, and it was always on emulator afterwards.
Yeah. And these guys have gotten really good with these.
Yeah.
Especially the ones you don't expect them to do good on, like the PlayStation ones. Like having a working PlayStation 4 emulator, that's insanely cool. The guys can do that. Like 3 is one of the hardest because 3 was a nightmare for developers to work on. That Cell engine, man, while it was such a beautiful idea and could do amazing things when it's written for properly. In fact, there's a whole thing. They made clusters using them. And of course now they stuff they can do way better. But back then they could make computer clusters out of those, and they were way more powerful than any computer they could cluster during the time. But it was really hard for developers. They were really happy to see the back end of PlayStation 3.
I hated the fact that I have a ton of PS2 games that I can't play.
Well, yeah, you could on the original one. I had one of the original ones where they actually put a PS2 on the board with it. It's the one with the memory slots. The first ones that came out, they had the compact flash slot, the Sony slot, memory card slot. It had all different ones. Those you could play PlayStation 2 games on. That's why they're so sought after on eBay. In fact, I kept mine for a while, even after it broke, because I tried to reflow it at the shop that time. I probably could still get it working if I'd have tried harder.
Yeah.
But they went for a lot of money. But
you were just fluxing it. You were reballing it, right?
Yeah, I didn't reball it. I just fluxed it, reflowed it. But then they took it out and put those slim PlayStation 3s out. Yeah, that made a lot of people mad, man. And here we are now. The PlayStation 5s play most PS4 games. That's the smart thing to do. Microsoft, you can play, Xbox One games at least, no problem. Most of the good games you want from back in the day are on Game Pass.
Right.
So no worries, as far as I'm concerned. It's important to be able to play your own stuff.
It's a good time to be revisiting all these IPs though, because we're at 4K technology, unless you're running the Xbox POS.
Yeah.
With 4K video can be a regular thing. If that's what you're going to be doing, all of your remakes and redistributions of these great IPs of the past, do it. There's no reason not to.
Yeah. Well, and you definitely need to, if you intend it to be shown on any kind of flat screen 1080, because a lot of those games were made for RTs and they just don't look
right.
So when you do the proper translation, remaster, that's what we were talking about earlier, the difference between a remaster and a remake. A remaster, just taking the old game and making it playable in an HD environment, making the assets the right resolution they need to be to display correctly on kind of pixels.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me some I want to talk about too, and it's the tendency to want to just go 4K, and I know certainly you want to future-proof yourself to a point, right? But unless you're like super far away from your TV and you got like a giant, like say a home theater or something like that, and you're quite a bit away from your TV, you really aren't.
Which really is the best way to play.
yeah, but you probably can't afford it. You probably don't have all that, and most of you probably sit within feet of your TV. 1080 is more than enough for you. I promise you. If you're going 4K, you're wasting your time. You will not.
I would say 1080 is enough. You can tell a difference at a few feet between that and 720.
Yeah. I mean, that really, there's a lot of times I download videos just 720.
I mean, 720 is good enough.
Yeah, it depends on your bitrate. Don't just worry about your resolution. It depends on your bitrate a lot. I've downloaded 1080 let's say of a wrestling show, and the bit rate was less than a 720, you had more bit rate, and the 720 was beautiful, and the 1080 just looked ragged. Who cares about what size the picture is if the bits are so low that you can't see, you can't see the beautiful details? Not all just about the size of the picture. That's what you got to understand. And being up close to it, you don't need that. Size of it's all about the size of your TV. We're talking massive, right? 4K matters for massive, and the depth of how far away you are from it. So otherwise, don't try and waste precious CPU cycles or GPU cycles on trying. And that's why a lot of these upscalers are great too, because they're taking some of that time away, and they can give you that you have to have that resolution. Maybe you can have that at half the speeds.
I think if you're running anything over 50-something inches, I couldn't give you an exact amount, but up in the 60s, 70s.
Yes.
60s. Unless you're just like right up on it for some reason, at that distance, you will probably see a difference between 4K and 1080.
Absolutely.
Depending upon what you're watching.
Absolutely. Like I said, the bigger the massive screens. Y'all understand
if you're running off of a 36-inch monitor, there's no reason to go above 1080.
And I'll tell you another thing too. I took a 4K encoded video of Wrath of Khan for my wife the other day, and our TV only displays 1080. It plays it fine. It'll play it.
Right.
But the colors were horrible. I went and got the 1080 version. It was beautiful, man. It was just absolutely beautiful. So you get the appropriate thing for what you're doing. You might be screwing yourself big time. For one, like I said, if you're trying to push a 4K picture and you're right there looking at it, small monitor, you're wasting GPU, CPU cycles like crazy, man. You could be having like 100 plus frame rate.
Yeah.
Just dropping it down to 1080p or 1440 for that matter, if you really have to have more.
I don't know. I kind of feel like for these more immersive games, though, 4K is the right track just for immersion, but those are games that are yet to be released, in my opinion, are the ones I'm thinking of. Because I feel like we get it more towards that with the titles coming out of more open world immersion, just not even necessarily RPG, just like trying to put you into this world.
Yeah. I mean, and we got stuff like 8K that's there now. Just don't know if there will be a need for that. When does it end?
Well,
how big do you...
I think Unreal changed the game for that as well.
What's that?
I said I think Unreal 5 changed that as well, as to whether or not there was a need for 8K on top of 4.
Yeah. I guess
because you are getting more and more realistic assets.
Well, listen, if you're trying to show something on a Trinitron, like a Titantron at the football game, then it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got a 20-something inch monitor, 30-inch monitor on your desk or something like that you're 2 feet away from, really, I don't know why. I just don't see why it needs to go any higher. Maybe somebody will show me a display in the future, some kind of difference. To me, it'll be about the encoding, getting the encoders to have smaller files and better pictures. VC1, or AC1 encoding is the next thing we're waiting on.
Right.
Well, we're not waiting on it. It's there. We're waiting on more people to adopt it.
Pick it up.
So that's the kind of things you were really, to me, that's just getting a clear picture, a good codec that compresses it to a manageable level. Of course, how manageable does that need to be? We're all going to gigabit plus gigabit speeds too now.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see. You always think that you don't need more, and then 20 years we look back and okay, well, I guess. I remember.
Why would I ever need more than 4 gigabytes of RAM, right?
Yeah. Well, I remember guys talking about HDMI cables being 60 hertz, And guys saw, well, I'm going to get 120 hertz cable. And well, what the hell are you going to do that for? Nothing goes over 60. Well, of course, a year later, 120 hertz is out. I think 3D crap probably pushed that first.
Yeah.
And then high resolution, high frame rate.
Same thing
games
with Cat 5, right? Cat 5e and then 6. Cat 6.
Yeah. But just buy Cat 6.
Yeah.
Save yourself in trouble.
There was a space for the 5e for a very short period of time.
There absolutely was. But there's literally nothing in the. I mean, there is as far as size, but as far as cost to have 5e or 6, just get 6. You're not going to pay any hardly difference at all. Do it right. Give yourself the bandwidth. Future-proof yourself. By the time you get to use 6 or whatever the max bandwidth is for Ethernet 6, which is ridiculous anyway, you'll be using fiber or something that time. But you got like fiber links now. It's becoming more and more common.
Mm-hmm.
All becoming more and more common. But anyway, I think I've rambled on enough. We've covered all the review we were going to cover. So I guess we can go ahead and just call this one wrapped. Huh? Yeah, we're just rambling on. Yep. So I'm looking at trying to put together a little more stuff about ADHD, guys. Hopefully, I was telling B about it earlier today that I can remember to write it all down. Been checking out these great videos by this nice British lady and her husband, I guess. What did we say her name was? Richard. The guy's name is Richard Pink and Roxanne Emery. Is that right?
I think that's what you said. I wasn't able to find her name when I was looking it up earlier.
Well, and I've got their page up here. ADHD Love is on their Instagram page, and I'm gonna talk about something because she wrote a book called Dirty Laundry, and I just love some of the stuff I've seen on here because she's making me, I've told you, I think I've told y'all, I've been diagnosed with ADHD and narcissistic personality disorder. So
I know you've mentioned the ADHD on here. I don't know if you brought up the other one before now.
I don't think I have. I think you're right. So
but now we know.
Yeah, now y'all know narcissistic. So yeah, I'm kind of a mess. But the interesting thing, the reason I like this so much is because separating from what I found out about the narcissistic stuff, which it enlightened me to myself and a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And now when I see these videos come through on Instagram, I think the same thing. I'm like, oh wow, like for just a quick example before we go is just I wear sunglasses, Brian. I always wear sunglasses. I cannot stand to be outside without something protecting my eyes. I have very sensitive eyes, light. And turns out that is an ADHD kind of byproduct or a side effect or whatever. I don't know. More people have this issue.
Symptom.
Seem to have
something that displays
of ADHD. So
yeah,
that's just one thing I learned from them. And
I think it's sensitivity in general, isn't it? Because it can be visual, it can be auditory, it can be touch, it can be all of these things.
You could be very right. And so, but I'm hoping to get a little more information, write some stuff down that she mentioned, and just I found like, wow, it just really floored me. So maybe I can share some of that with y'all, and you'll be going, wow, it's amazing. I didn't realize that ADHD encompassed so much of what I have wrong with me, I guess, for lack of a better word, better term. But so I'm going to hopefully have that soon, as best I can put it together and talk about it and give her a shout out. And she doesn't know who I am from Adam, but I like people that are doing good things for other people. So why not talk about them? But anyway, we'll see you next time. From Brian, I'm Sean. We'll see you on the flip side. Y'all take care.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.